Council's Administrative Services Committee meeting in reference to Ladd Peoples Stadium. Today in attendance are all members of the City Council, members of the Ladd Board of Directors are present. The new director or interim director of Ladd Stadium Board of Directors here. Also Danny Cordy from Mobile Sports Authority, the city clerk and her staff, along with Ricardo Woods from the mayor's office, and also Keisha Brown. Also in attendance are members of the media and press, and I think 2 outlets. On today's agenda, it was requested that the council requested that the Ladd Stadium Board today offer to the council its current budget, its projection through 2020, through 2022, and projections on into 2023's budget of what was coming, current balance sheets, and what acts or other amenities or other revenue-generating resources that Ladd Stadium had coming to it. Before the council gets into that process, I want to give the floor to Mr. Witherspoon, who is the current board chair of Ladd Stadium, and for any remarks that he may have in reference to the current board's action.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. You kind of stole most of what I was going to say, but welcome to Ladd Peoples Sports and Entertainment Complex. And we want to drive that title into everyone's mind. It's just not Ladd Peoples Stadium anymore. Sports and entertainment. We're trying to diversify. Again, my name is Gary Witherspoon. I'm the chairman, and I don't have much to say because we have a lot to get to. But before we get started, we're going to have a prayer. Ms. Thelma Thrash.
Reverend David Frazier, I had invited him. He's from the I'm not the Reverend David Frazier, but I do know how to pray. He is the pastor of Revelation Church, and he was from the community, and I thought it was fitting and proper that we invite someone from the community. So, we bow your heads, please. Father, we come to thee this day with thanksgiving and supplication in our hearts, thanking thee for seeing us a day that we've never seen before. And we're asking you to order our steps in this meeting. Be with us in this meeting today and bless each one of us individually and collectively. These and other blessings I ask in thy son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, before we get started, I hope everyone will keep an open mind. What you're going to hear is a lot of work that's been put into 2 months, and you're going to see the result of that hard work. Mr. Drinkard has been doing a fine job, and I hope everyone will be receptive to what he has to say. Please let him finish speaking. Please also turn off your cell phones, silence them, please. And after he gets done, if there are any questions, if you would direct your question, just nod at me, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Same thing you guys do during council meetings. So without further ado, Mr. Drinkard, C.J. Drinkard, interim president, of Ladd Sports and Entertainment Complex.
Mr. Witherspoon, before you proceed, may I remind the Ladd Stadium Board that this is a council meeting. Any request to speak to the floor or anyone else, all requests should be directed at the chair of this committee, and this chair will allow anyone that chooses to speak that opportunity.
Not a problem, sir. Go ahead. Come on.
All right.
How's everybody doing today? So everyone should have a few items. I want to start with one that has regions in the top left corner. Okay. Everybody locate that item for me, please. And we have a gentleman walking through the door. Do you want me to pause for a second?
Please.
Please, if you would.
Okay, perfect. So on this sheet is our current balances as of this morning, okay? We have 2 separate accounts, and you can flip back and forth to each page and see the balance that is standing as of this morning on both of those accounts. And if anybody does not have one, please let me know, we'll make sure we get one to you.
Ms. mentioned that the second page had a second balance on it showing a separate account.
Yes, sir.
It just has reconciliation on the second page, there's only one account showing.
We'll double check that for you. I'll get Megan to double check that. Second balance sheet for you guys. And then everyone should have a balance sheet as of January 1, 21. That is our second item. Okay, if you're not able to locate that, please let me know. Perfect, perfect. And our third item is our colorful page here. You should see a page with the stadium, the inside of the stadium listed. Now this packet here, and I'll go into it more in depth in talking points, but this packet here outlines our marketing strategies as well as what we've done in the past and going forward. So to kind of harp off of that, I'm gonna jump to our fourth page and I'm gonna get really detailed in both of these items. The fourth item should be LAD People Stadium Sports and Complex calendar of events. Everyone should have one of those.
No, I don't.
I don't have one of those.
Okay.
Is it this one that starts August 9th?
Yes. That's it right there, Mr. Ash on top. Yes. Perfect, perfect. Now to get really detailed in these last two items, okay, the marketing strategy, past, present, and future, as well as the calendar of events. So let's follow along on the calendar of events page. So the goal for me coming in was to ensure that we brought forth a lot of movement that was lucrative financially for the stadium as well. So upon me doing my own research about, what has been going on before myself, as well as what we can do, there's a lot of growth and opportunity there. So starting August 9th, okay, so everybody should see August 22 at the top of their page. August 9th, we have Major League Football, okay, so we're all familiar with that. That organization came in and they are very good to us and we've been very, very good to them. So what we're trying to do is make sure we establish a long-term relationship with that organization so they are coming back in the spring and then become a hometown team for us. That is something I do not want to lose to other cities like Birmingham, who are currently in the bid trying to get the teams as well. So with them, they have games on August 9th and August 16th. So those are their two highlight events for us. Now, for those who may not know, that organization is using this fall as a trial run for their investors. So everything goes good, then they will get everything they need for the next 5 to 10 years financially to sustain. And that's what we become a big part of that, okay? Whether it's the facility, the look of the parking lot, facilitating and helping tickets, staffing of events, everything down to the T from A to Z, we are involved in that process, okay? August 13th, which is the second item on the August 22 events. The APDFL is another developmental league that wants to come in and perform a lot of events here. Now, I've been a part of that organization in the past. I've seen it grow. It's been around for 10 plus years. Very, very credible. They have 32 teams in a similar structure as they do with the NFL. So with those teams, they all play schedules in a East and West conference, and they come together and play a championship game in June, at the end of June. So at that meeting with them on the 13th, my hopes is to get them to secure a contract with us for the next 5 years to have a Commissioner's Classic as well as a championship game here. So to go into the Commissioner's Classic a little bit, they bring their top 4 teams from the previous season, okay, the top 4 seeded teams, and they play 2 games in one day. Okay, so I've showed the venue to him. I've met with him through FaceTime, Zoom. He's seen everything he has to see. And I'm gonna pause for a second. We got another visitor.
That's Reverend Frazier, he's to the left.
Please keep going.
Okay, yes, sir. So with that organization, that it will be a huge deal for us. So right now, that is something that's being done in Atlanta, New Orleans, and Birmingham. So my hopes is with the relationship that I have with him is to leverage that and bring all of that here, which is much needed. August 27th, there's 2 items on there on August 27th. Please make sure that you see 2 items listed for August 27th. On that day, we have a local pop-up shop. So a pop-up shop is similar to kind of like a flea market for those who've never been to one, okay, on an upper scale. So you'll have 50 to 125 vendors in our parking lots, and they will display their items, they will display their services, and they will sell their products or services to the general public in which who comes. The idea behind that concept is to get the community to buy into the image of Black People Stadium. Okay, there's a lot that has happened in the past, and there's a lot that we can overcome as long as we extend our hands to the general public. And that is the way we do it, by bringing them in, not keeping them out. Okay, so once we bring them in and they're able to promote Black People Stadium Sports and Entertainment Complex through their personal pages and social media sites, that then gains an additional eye for us as well. Okay? Buccaneers Sports Academy versus IMG. If you are a football fan, you know how big that game is. IMG is the biggest institution when it comes to football athletics. They are the #1 school in the nation who produces Division I and Division II athletes, and primarily NFL prospects out of their institution. Okay, so we've convinced them to come here for opening day against the Buccaneers Sports Academy. So again, we have to make sure we're on our P's and Q's as far as a facility and city body to make sure they continue to come back. Because having that team here, I can guarantee you every high school, middle school, elementary school, and football fan will be here to see that team. Okay, a simple Google search or YouTube search on that team will show you tons of information with millions of views per video for that institution. And we have them here coming to Mobile, Alabama, Black People Stadium Sports and Entertainment Complex. Okay, September 3rd, we have Buccaneers Sports Academy versus Georgia Storm. So Georgia Storm is owned by Storm Johnson, who played running back in the NFL. Again, we have leveraged relationships within the building, within the staff, to make sure we get credible people here to bring the general public back out to Black People Stadium. Okay, that is our goal. We've been very successful at that. And as we go through these events, in my 1 month here, I have brought forth 40 different events with a lot of events pending, and they're just pending dates. Okay. September 17th and September 24th are 2 additional games for the Buccaneers Sports Academy. And with that organization, we have brought them here for 3 years. The idea behind everything we do is to make sure that everybody who does business with us comes from multiple years, not just a one-off, okay? I do not believe in one-offs. I believe in long-term relationships, okay? October 1st, we have a concert. Carl Edwards is the lead promoter for that event. You have a lot of artists like Bun B, Boosie, Jeezy, 8Ball MJG, and Trick Daddy that will be at that event. Next on the list is more Buccaneers games, okay? And last of October, then we have the country concert hosted by Jeremy Bowman, okay? He's pending an artist right now. He has 2 artists that are under contract. We're just trying to see who has the closest pass-through route, and we'll secure them. Next year, we're gonna bring in Luke Bryan with Jeremy Bowman. So that is already in the works. We're just waiting to hear back from him today on that last event that'll happen in October. So, and again, we're bringing in heavy hitters, and we're gonna bring in positive movement that is not gonna damage the image of the stadium, okay? I am not for just bringing in anything that brings in revenue, but things that contribute to the positive reflection of what we're trying to do in the future, okay? November, Port City Vikings practice starts. So let's discuss that organization. That organization is another team that is local that wants to utilize the stadium. And they will start practices in November. And with that organization, we will definitely be able to, again, expound on the community ties, expound on the business relationships within that organization that they obtain, as well as improving the image of the stadium. November 12th, this is the big shebang, okay? The Gulf Coast Challenge, okay? Deion Sanders is coming to town, and everybody who's seen Deion Sanders on social media knows he talks the talk, he walks the walk, but also he points out problems that he sees. And I do not want Lad People Stadium Sports Entertainment Complex to be a problem that he sees. So when it comes to our light posts, for example, we need help. Those things need to be repainted. There are a couple things around the stadium that need to be upgraded. Because bringing in a team of that stature and that has that notoriety, we just have to be in our P's and Q's. That is something we can bring back every year. That is something we can support the Sports Authority in, but we, as Lad People Stadium, have to be in a position to do that. Okay, so I know where he goes. I follow him on social media. I've done a lot of, reading his videos as of last night. And when he sees a problem with the stadium, he points it out, he videos it, and it's national, it's global. It's global. He's a hot topic right now. So again, with Deion Sanders coming in, I can hope that, my hopes are that we all come together and kind of fix some things around here, but at the same time, continue a long-standing relationship to just get things moving, get moving forward, okay? I don't like letting grass grow up under my feet. I like to move kind of quick and aggressive to make sure we get things done. Okay, December 22, we have Edmonton Elks. They used to be called Edmonton Eskimos. So if you're familiar with CFL football, their team is green and gold. They are coming here in December/January to do a camp. And the reason why I put a hyphen between that is because they have to see if they're going to make the playoffs and be successful in the playoffs. If they are successful in the playoffs, they will come here in January. If they're not, they will be here in December. So we have a lot of local talent here, whether it's South Alabama, West Florida, and Pensacola, as well as the JUCOs in Mississippi. All of those regions and areas will be here at that camp trying to get to the CFL. Okay, so that's another huge opportunity to put our stamp on something that's never been done here. Okay, so with our relationships with them, I've known those guys for some time. I played some time in Canada myself, so that's how I was able to garner that relationship. But definitely being able to do that and bring them here is something it's going to be wild for the community. It's going to be insane. If we flip to the second page, we have February of 23. Okay, if you're not able to see that, please let me know. So again, February 25th is what we're looking at for that APDFL Commissioners Classic. The top 4 teams in that league will play here. Okay, 2 different games. That's an opportunity for us to increase revenue when it comes to attractions for people coming out of town into town. Okay. In March, we have the Port City Vikings games. That organization will play teams from North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee. There's tons of states that they will play nationally that will also help us to garner those relationships from out of town. Okay, that is very big to me because I want to ensure that everybody downtown, hotels and restaurants included, are able to feed off of this as well. Okay, it's not just a Lad thing. Okay, we're making relationships with everybody around here to ensure that we all are able to, be in a lucrative situation. April, we have Port City Vikings game again. There's actually 2 in April, but then we have April 6th through April 16th, which is the Thrillville Carnival. And I think everybody should be familiar with that, but if not, that is a 10-day event that we are going to be very, very excited about because it brings families back to the stadium. Again, I'm gonna keep harping on that because that is going to help our image in the long run. We've had a blackout for a little bit. It's time to put some ice on that thing. Okay, so we do that by bringing families back in here. We do that by getting the kids back in here. We do that by building community relationships, and we do that by giving people something to do. Okay? In May, another Port City Vikings game. We also have a Mother's Day concert hosted by Carl Edwards. With him, I have agreement with him that he's going to bring 2 concerts per year. 2 per year. So again, I don't like short-term relationships, I like long-term. So what we're going to do is everybody who does business with us through these doors, you're either going to do a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal so we can add to our book of business. Okay? So it's about knowing what's coming forth in the future, not just what we have coming in this year. In June of 23, we have the Commissioners Championship game, the APDFL organization. So that date will be dependent upon when they host playoffs, which is why you see date pending. But for that, again, you have the top 2 teams in that league, which is a national league, coming here to play in Mobile. It's huge. Hotels, downtown eatery, Uber, anything that you can talk about as far as travel, flights, all of that stuff is incorporated into these leagues. They utilize it all. Okay? August of 23, This is projecting into next year's August. So we have the Buccaneers will be playing again, kind of fluctuate depending on the availability of the schools that he chooses, but that will be in that range as well, that November range. Okay? So future events. Buccaneer Sports Academy. Let me break that down for people who are not familiar with that organization. That organization takes high school seniors that did not get a chance to go to college, and they train them for another season, 6 months. And then from there, they help those guys get scholarships. Okay? We all know that Mobile is a hotbed for football. That is a no-brainer. That's something I don't have to explain. Okay? Hotbed for football. Those guys were displaced because of COVID. That effect will last between now and the next 7 years. It's projected for another 7 years. So those guys do not have the same scholarship opportunities because those people that are already in college now get 1 or 2 more extra years, and it is killing everybody. So bringing this opportunity to Mobile, which brings in Pensacola, which brings in Biloxi, Foley, and all these other areas will help us, again, when it comes to travel and outside state participation. So having that impact on the youth here is also needed because we all know it's getting out of hand. Okay? And this is also something that can give these kids something to do. Passionate about it because I think that we could be the staple that makes that mark on them. We can change things, but it's going to take a collaborative effort. By far. Okay? Port City Vikings, same thing. You catch those guys that are coming out of college, that 24 plus range, and you keep them active. My grandma used to say all the time, an idle mind is a devil's playground. You keep these kids busy, you keep crime down, you keep all that stuff out of our neighborhoods. You have to give these kids something to do, but it starts with us in this room, and we have to support it. We have to support it. Okay? Again, Carl Edwards and other promoters that we deal with, Jeremy Bowman, those guys have to bring me multiple concerts per year, or we will not touch it. Again, I like long-term relationships. Okay? Lad People Stadium sponsored events at the bottom. This is the last section before I open the floor for questions, or you open the floor for questions rather. Our mission is to reestablish and connect the connection between the community and the stadium leadership. Okay? So in the past, we have not done a good job of that, and I say we because I'm a part of it now. We have not done a good job of that. When we had our open house last week, we invited the community to come in, pitch your ideas to me, and we'll go from there. We had a ton of good ideas that I think will be very, very lucrative for us and as well as the promoters of that event. You know, we have a lot of people who want to do a kids' day at the field. Well, we partner with these bouncy house companies around town. You bring in about 40 to 50 of them. Those kids come out here and have a great time. It's all about reestablishing that connection with them so we can build on that image. Okay? And that is the only way. There's no shortcut to that. There's no shortcuts. Okay? These events include, but are not limited to, back to school giveaways. Let me harp on that for a second. We all know an artist by the name of Jeremy Biddle, Young Blue out of Mobile. Okay, I've talked to him numerous of times. He's going to do his Blue Bash here in the future, but he also wants to donate to a back to school bash. We were going to do one in August, but with Major League coming in, it's just bad timing. So we will start that stuff next year. So we have a lot of different artists here that are willing to support us in that. Okay? And not just artists, we have a lot of local businesses that want to support as well. Play days at the parks for kids, I just harped on that. NFL player sponsored camp. I talked to Wallace, I've talked to Chris Casher, I've talked to KJ May, a lot of guys that have played in the NFL, and those guys are guys I grew up with, awesome guys. But they want to do camps here for the kids as well. Again, you have to keep the kids busy, which then helps the image of Lad Stadium, which then helps us bring in these big artists when we don't have problems. There's no shortcuts. We got to start with the PR perspective first. We fix the image, we fix everything else, everything flows. But again, it starts with the people in this room as a collaborative effort. So I'm excited about it. Don't care how long it takes, but we're going to get it done. I'm optimistic about that. So any questions for me?
First of all, questions first from the committee, members Gina or
Yeah, comment and question. First of all, I like the energy that you bring
Yes, sir.
to LAD. You've obviously been working your tail off to get these things laid on. The one thing, these all seem like neat events. Major League Football, is that the group that's here right now practicing?
Yes, the pro team, yes, sir.
Okay. The one thing that I would like to see with all these events is, what's the financial impact of these events that's coming in? We've got, 2-3 year long deals with these folks, but I don't see on here, right, how does this help Ladd Stadium? How does this help, Mobile? I know it's got to, right? Because
Yeah,
we've got
right.
teams coming in and they're gonna be staying in the hotels and what that.
Right.
One of the things that'd be good to see is the financial impact. I've
100%.
heard that this group that's coming in right now and practicing is about a $4 million impact. It's those types of numbers and assessments that, would help us as we help sell this,
Oh,
to the
100%.
city.
Can I just
Yep.
direct and separate the direct from the indirect?
Sure, yes, absolutely, yeah. So, to Joel's point, what is,
100%.
what is beneficial to Ladd, financial input direct on the contract and then the indirect
City.
to the city, yes. The one thing that I don't see on here, I've heard discussions because of the stadiums that the high school, Mobile County was going to build are all behind schedule. Has there been any discussions with Williamson and Murphy, coming here and using the stadium this year? Is that something that y'all are talking about?
So they've reached out to Mark and had discussions with Mark. The next step is to reach out to me and the board and have discussions from there. I'm open to it because I do know that, we need to help them as well as they can help us. So I'm very much open to it. It is not off the table. We'll be very receptive to it. That phone call just, we'll have those discussions pretty much today or tomorrow and we'll lock that in, so,
That's all I had, thank you.
yes, sir.
Gina?
Really, it had kind of the same questions, so you've already answered those on the, Ladd Stadium sponsored events with all the kids' activities and things like that. Are you going to reach out to all of the various municipal Little League football teams and see if there might be a way for them to play championship games? Or what is the one that's always preseason that everybody plays, high school teams play, I can't remember.
Like preseason kickoff type.
Yeah, little
Jamboree.
jamborees,
Right,
that
jamborees.
sort of thing for all of our municipal kids, because, they bring out so many family members, so that would be a great way for citywide, to gather them all, but that just hit me, but everything really looks very good, your energy is great, and you've done a whole lot in a short period of time, so I think.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah, well, go ahead, yeah.
So PJ works with the kids at the Parks and Recs. So we've already had that conversation through Tony Davis, who owns Secret Scientist. So we've made that connection yesterday, and it's very firm. I don't know how soon we can move them here. So I'm trying to get it to where if it's too late to do it preseason, we can do mid-season going forward. But definitely, it's something that we've talked about yesterday, and they're excited about it because they didn't know that they could use the facility.
Yeah.
So I have an open door policy. So as long as we ain't burning the building down, we're fine.
Well, that's what they don't.
All right.
But thank you, I appreciate that.
No, no.
Anyone?
100%.
Ben?
If you're on the board here, could you raise your hand, because I don't know that I know it. Okay, thank you. Congratulations on getting the position.
Yes, sir.
My concern is that here we are out at Ladd Stadium meeting with all of you to hear about the stadium and its future. And I'm glad we're here and we're talking about it. But prior to this, we're really getting our information through the lanyard. Getting our information through the media, what's being reported. That, I'm hopeful that the communication between Ladd Stadium and the city council can improve tremendously, because for my short time being on the council, it's been quite poor. It just has. And, it shouldn't be such a challenge for us to set up a meeting or get a report, or we shouldn't have to request it or ask for it. Every so often at the city council, somebody should be down there telling us what's going on, because our citizens are asking. They're asking what's going on at Ladd Stadium. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of adversaries out there at Ladd Stadium, to your point. And it's not helpful to the citizens, and it's not helpful to Ladd Stadium to allow those things to just linger. So, I appreciate all the volunteer work that everybody does, and I appreciate the energy and, you know, the foresight on some of these, events that are coming up, but, you know, me, especially me being a new guy, I just feel like I'm somewhat left in the dark at times. So I would appreciate, you know, every so often, without being provoked or asked, somebody come down there and tell us what's going on. And the Michigan group, as a result of the ARP money that was requested from us, $175,000 or so, came, $160,000 that was requested, come down and tell us, you know, what the money's gonna be used for, and that they're gonna provide financial reports and all that on a monthly basis. That happened for like 2 months. And then that was, it got the money and it was poof, you know, it wasn't delivered back to us. So I hope that going forward, we can all work together and be apprised of all the ongoings. So thank you all again for y'all's volunteers.
100%. And that's something too that, you know, I brought to the board's attention that I want to address is, I had a lot of people reach out to me after they know I took the position, and just the community wants updates across the board about events. Like, to your point, you're 100% correct. I don't disagree with anything you said. So, my hope here today, I'm gonna take the hope out of it. I know after today that we'll build relationships with each and every one of us so that we can get on that same page, and you guys feel more comfortable reaching out and helping us whenever we're in need. So, I agree. There's no argument there. You're 100% correct. You're 100%
Chairman,
correct.
can we answer that question, to Mr. Leonard's question? We actually did reach out to the council when we had a change in positions, president, vice chair. We invited, I think Scott Reynolds was the only one that did attend that meeting that we did reach out to you guys. The other thing is on the ARP funding, that goes to Mr. McGadden, I do believe, once a month, because I think he was the guy over that financial, that money. So we do send that to him. In terms of reaching out to the council, we were in such a big transition, things were changing. Big Knight died. When Joe said he was leaving, we had to try to get someone in. It wasn't that we were trying to avoid anyone. In fact, I did reach out to Councilman Small. The problem with that was I had the wrong number. I talked to him about this. It wasn't that anyone was trying to avoid you guys. We were trying to reach out, communicate with you guys, and Beth Stafford, who's over that ARP money, who does our marketing and our PR, she has been doing those reports periodically each month, and it goes to Mr. McGadden. I don't think we were ever told that it had to come at the county. I think we were supposed to, from what we were told, the reporting goes to Mr. McGadden, and we were doing just that. What we were trying to do was to get to this point so that you guys would understand the effort we were putting into it. Again, I know a number of these board members reached out to their prospective council members. I'm sorry I couldn't get to you, Mr. Penn. And the reason I couldn't get to you is because the transition, again, and this place was left without anyone, a manager. And we had to form a committee. It's just a lot of wheels turning. But as you can see from what we've been doing, we've been working very hard to make sure that you guys see that, you know, we were doing our jobs, and that's what that was. And I think it's only been, I think it died in March, I think something like that. So that's to help answer your question, sir. We were not deliberately trying to avoid anyone. I think actually Beth has spoken to Ms. Gregory before, so there are some people that did know what was going on. It might not have been before the full council, but if that's what you guys want us to do, report to you guys like that, we have no problem with that.
Jim.
Thanks, Gary, I appreciate that, and we do know about Vic dying and everything that was going on with that, and then Joe preparing to leave, so I understand you've certainly been going through a big change, over here. One thing that, might help us, the Visit Mobile folks send us a report, it's quarterly, monthly, on everything they're doing, including all of their PR events, you know, the plan, who's coming, who's going, and then they give us a cost breakdown. That might be something, yeah, it's statistics, but it also shows, on the PR side, what Beth could do to show all of the events coming up, maybe some hits that you've gotten, whether it's social media, print, whatever it is. So something like that, I think would help the council and keep that communication going, you know, moving ahead. And I did chat with Beth, one day before, I think it was a Rotary meeting, we had a chance to catch up a little bit. And, you know, she told me about a lot of the things that were coming up, that she was really excited about, the different things that they were working on, that she had in the pipeline, that you all had in the pipeline. And, you know, I said, look, that sounds great to me, you know, as long as things are happening at Ladd Stadium, y'all are bringing in events, whether it's a concert, football, you know, whatever it is, providing revenues to the city of Mobile, I think that's what we're interested in seeing, and I know you are too, so, you know, it's good to see this list of things going on as well.
Joel, did you have anything?
Yeah, I did, thank you. First of all, I'd like to join my colleagues and thank you for doing it, and you for giving this opportunity to visit with you. I think it's very important that we do this periodically. As a matter of fact, I just went to, last week or so, I went to see Bradley Byrne, who's the new president of the Chamber of Commerce, and urged him to start up again quarterly or 3 times a year presentations that the chamber was making to the city council. And I think y'all might consider something like that. I don't know if it needs to be quarterly, but periodically coming down and talking to it. Just because you send something into the administration doesn't mean we see it. And most of the stuff you send to the administration stops in the administration.
Especially since this went to neighborhood development.
What you send to them, they don't.
If I can interject right here, I went back and looked at the minutes in the last meeting we had with y'all. We formally requested that once a quarter y'all present to us the financial statements, projections, and also marketing reports. I can understand it going to Mr. McGatney for the ARPA fundings, but it was a formal request. But with that request was that it come to the council and not to the administration. So whatever you send to the council, please copy the council, to the administration, please copy the council from now forward. CJ, you have anything? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you wouldn't.
I had, my appointee, Mr. Anderson, met with me last week. We had a good conversation. He was able to fill me in on a lot of this, and I appreciate the service all of y'all provide to the board. One thing I'm curious about is you provided us with a balance sheet, but no income statement.
So with the balance sheet, let me check that out.
The income statement would be much more important to us than the balance sheet is.
Okay, understood.
And then to refresh my recollection, your fiscal year ends when?
Is yours?
September.
September, same as the city. So y'all will be soon preparing a budget for the incoming fiscal year, right? So as soon as you get that budget to the point where you think it's okay, we'd love to see that budget. The things I'm in, right now I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
The things I'm interested in terms of LAD are 3 things. The events, that was very informative here. The revenues, as Mr. Jones has mentioned, both the direct and indirect, and attendance. And the last one is really the most important thing of all, because while I don't necessarily expect LAD to be making a profit. It's a public facility. Most public facilities don't make a profit. The real issue is if it's losing money, is it losing money in proportion to the number of people, residents that are using the facility?
100%.
So as I said to Mr. Ankerson the other day, I'm not in favor of spending $500,000 or $1 million a year to preserve a shrine to the past. I'm open to spending that amount of money if it's a facility that is used by the people that are paying.
100%.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, just one question based on what Scott and what Joel said. We're under contract with the Major League Football right now, correct?
Yes.
So we should know what their direct rental cost is to the stadium, just off the top of our heads, right?
Yes.
What's that number?
$30,000.
$30,000, and that's for how long?
That is from June 1st, July 1st through August 17th. They crashed down on the 16th. Yes, sir.
So roughly a month and a half, $30,000. Is it our standard rental cost?
So coming in, there wasn't a set structure for standard rental cost. So what I did was comprise a sheet for that to where it balances out. So it's $1,000 per day.
Does that cover our overhead and use of the facility, like lighting, management costs, your costs, payments, whatever it costs to operate it?
For that time period, yes.
So $1,000 a day is basically what we're spending out here?
Well, if you combine the usage that they bring in for those events, then that like lights, for example, lights would not be the same if it were regular events who don't use lights versus somebody who's using lights. So when you factor in lights, when you factor in utilities and all these other things, then that 30,000 would pretty much just get us by through that. Because there's a lot of improvements. Like I said, for example, the stadium is not where it should be to even host a team of that stature. So we're having to do more out of pocket to even sustain that team. So that 30,000 does essentially cover us through that time period for now.
And did we do a projected revenue gain for the game?
For their
Gain for the game.
Revenue.
game revenue, yeah, for their games, they're projecting $14,000 per game, home game here, with the short window of promotion.
And the attendance projection,
So their attendance projection is around the 2000s.
around 2,000.
So the 14,000, is that ticket sales? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, because they'll give away free tickets and they'll couple that with tickets sold.
So we're looking for 14,000 seats out there, is what you're saying?
Right. And that was a conversation I had yesterday.
No, we said 2,000.
2,000.
2000 seats.
2,000. I've got a few
Yeah.
more as we go, but CJ, I'm sure you.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to the board, thank you all so much. I know it's a volunteer job and everything, and congratulations. I don't know if it's really congratulations or not, because I know you got a lot in your hand, but love your energy. You're young, and that's what this stadium needs. It's some young blood around it. So that's a great thing that this board has done. At least get someone temporary with some young blood. As you have heard that, many of the council members have asked for, income statement. One thing you had stated about, Deion Sanders coming and you take pictures of, the vaults and, he be painted and stuff like that. The city just not just gonna throw out money, at the stadium and, only 10 people showing up and, money's just not coming in. So that's the reason why we keep on asking for pretty much an income statement, as in, is it worth it?
Right.
Is it good? One thing I would like for you to do, and again, I know you got a lot on you, and I know you say in the next day or two that you will be talking to the school board.
Yes, sir.
I know that Williamson Murphy Stadium is behind, but I still would like for them to really still call this stadium their home. Anything that, they say that they losing money by playing here. If the board can sustain it as far as in cutting costs, for them to keep this stadium as their home, that would be a little money better than none.
Right.
Because to me, building a stadium across the street from a stadium, it just don't make no sense to me, especially in the same neighborhood. To me, this can be Murphy home, this can be Williamson home, but if you all can just cut down the price or can afford to cut down the price of them having their games here and just keep this stadium more vibrant, I think that'd be worthwhile. And again, a little money is better than no money. So the conversation with the school board, you know, sooner than later is the best thing for, not only just for the stadium, not only for this community, but for the city of Mobile.
100%.
Again, I do appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
and everything.
Yes, sir.
And also to Mr. Gary, he had called me, but he was texting, excuse me, but he was texting my business phone. So we did have a conversation about 3 weeks ago, he found out, text my cell phone. But I do appreciate you, Mr. Garrett, and again, the rest of the board and everything.
But while we're talking about high school football,
Yes, sir.
and Gina Corey wants to go next, I want to interject one question into that. Buccaneer Academy is out of Phoenix City, Alabama, is that right?
So they originated in Phoenix City and then relocated to Mobile permanently.
When did they relocate?
As of February 17th.
And they have a following of, what size?
The following of the team,
Right.
if you want to go out based off last year's projections, the first home game, the turn tickets was about 7,000. And what we did was we coupled that with the pop-up shop idea, for example. So football is not going to sell the tickets. It's the attractions that bring people in. You know, for example, like Jackson State. They're not coming to see Jackson State, come to see Dion and the bands. So what we do is, you know, we've sat down with a couple of board members and we just thought out, you know, ideas. With their following they currently have, what can we add to those events to make sure we have that 7,000 plus on that level? You know, so that's the kind of things that we bring in. So.
I'm confused, 7,000 what, is that?
People.
Is
seats.
that the whole season?
No, that's one game per game.
One game?
Per game, yes.
Okay. I'm a HBCU grad, HBCU past football player. I would hate to think nobody's coming to see the players, they want to come to see the band.
Hey, Tuskegee, so I get it.
And I see quite a few other HBCU grads in this room too that were athletes and players, so watch what you say right there.
Oh yeah, I'm Tuskegee doing too. So.
All right. Corey and then you, Gina. Go ahead, Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Brinker.
Yes, sir.
To William Point, we do know that halftime is game time.
Yep.
As an HBCU grad. But again, I love your energy. Thank you for taking the time to prepare this. I love the events. I don't recall this past year that LAD had these many events. So in your short amount of time, you've been working. To the board, thank you so much too. I know as a volunteer, I'm on boards, and so to give your time to serve here at LAD Stadium, people, sports entertainment complex, I definitely appreciate your time. I agree with a lot of what my colleagues stated. I think it's important for us to, if we want to move forward and grow our city, we need LAD, people from sports entertainment complex to grow as well. So whatever ways we can support. A couple things, on the balance sheet, it says as of January 1st, 2021.
So I think there may have been some misunderstanding in the way the verbiage was translated to us on that. So we presented the balance sheet based off of last year and current to date, so you guys can see that full picture. So it may be a little slated since the previous management just didn't have movement, you know. So
Okay.
with those numbers.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Can we actually do that?
What?
Can the way the balance sheet is set up, that's one of the questions I have there. When we're looking at this as the finance chair, can they actually show, because the balance sheet is a spot, it's
Right,
just
right.
a spot in time.
Yeah.
But you just said you combined it with 22. So how can it say January 21 and you combine it with 22?
As of, so like when you look at the balance sheet, the as of date will be the start date, and then it'll be to current date.
Where's your current date at?
So it's all combined. So when you run the reports through QuickBooks and you do it that way, it goes from the date that you select the first date to current date.
I've never heard it referred to that way.
Yeah.
When you say as of January 1st, 2021, I'm assuming this is the balance sheet.
As of,
Yeah.
it should be as of today.
Well, that's the way we ran. Yeah, we literally ran it for you guys this morning.
So, in QuickBooks, God forgive me, I have to deal with it all the time. QuickBooks normally prints out the date of the current date when you ask for a balance sheet. So if this is as of that date, you put in today's date, then it would actually generate your report at that point in time.
Yeah, well, when we did our projections, you can see at the top where it says 7/19/22. That's today's date. And then if you go to the top where it says as of, that will be the start date of the balance sheet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that? That,
Mr. Ames?
yes, the, that'll be corrected immediately. We need to understand that a little more clear. We have an accounting firm that does our audits, we do our city audit. We have those numbers as of the calendar year, which is September 30th. But in the month, we know that, and we will make that correction. You'll have that as accounting procedure wise, give it to you.
But we are just as healthy today as this states that we're all right.
Yes, I think that's what we're saying here. What you see there is what I mean, our numbers, but we need to present it as the profit and loss statement, please get to you quickly too, so.
Corey, are you finished?
No, thank you for answering that question. Also, when you look at the events, I would love to get the information as well as the projected attendance for each event, as
100%.
well as the, finance. the
Finances
revenue.
per
Yeah,
event.
yeah,
Yes,
for
sir.
each one. Thank you.
The back, Ms. Gregory.
Yeah, you mentioned something about, the stadium is not ready for this type of football game to come. I think we would probably like to know what that means. You have a list of, maintenance needs, updates, repairs, I'm sure, and estimated cost on those. And then going to the high school football question, I'm trying to remember some of the issues that they talked about as far as, cost to bring their games here. Was concessions an issue, or are they getting concessions? Is LAD getting concessions? How was that worked? I just can't remember.
So there's always a split on concessions. With the events, you either have a split on concessions or LAD gets 100% concessions. So from my time here, what I've learned through that is it was the rental cost that was an issue, and then overall just police presence within the building. So those two
Did
items.
they get 100% of the concessions and then pay the full rental, or?
Parking, and they got the rent, they were charged the rental.
Right.
And they got the ticket sale.
They got ticket sales, so that was really the only revenue that they got.
Yeah.
Is there room for compromise on some of that stuff so that they would feel like it's not costing them too much
No.
overall, or?
And I answer that.
No, I was just thinking of ways to help provide incentive, for them to come back.
All right. Ann, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, up until, I guess it was last year, was it last year, or year before last? We lost money for every game,
For every high school game.
yes ma'am, especially at night. Like last month, power bill was $9,000, and that, we really did try to work with them, but it's also having to pay for security. And it's, I don't know how we could cut back anymore.
How much does it cost per game for high school? And how much were they paying?
I would have to look, I would have to look it up.
$4,000 a game plus splitting the concessions, and you guys took the park line. Well, I was told four. So, right, so in essence, it cost them more to play here than they made. So, the end result of what the schools are saying is that if they were to build a stadium, then they could probably make more money playing in their own stadium after they pay their stadium off. Our thing is, we like to see them continue to play here if they can't build a stadium in their own backyard. And it's better if two of the schools play here, because you really don't want a stadium across the street from the stadium. So I think that we need to look for an opportunity, if possible, to where it's a win-win for both teams.
It'd have to be a win-win for them and the state.
That's a win-win, that's what I think.
That's no doubt about that, but, there's another variable that plays in that process.
And what is that, Mr. Davis?
Are you won, win, loss, sir?
Say it again?
Attendance.
Oh, attendance.
You win, loss, record.
Attendance of those schools.
That's right, you won, lost, right?
Your win, loss, record has a tremendous impact upon how many folks
Hold
don't
on,
attend
not
the
everybody
game.
one time, not everybody one time.
Mr.
Uh,
Chairman,
Mr.
How much does it cost the stadium to put on, to hold a game per night?
That question needs to be directed to the stadium. How much does it cost to host a game tonight?
Because depends on the time. You know, if it's, we don't have to use a lot of power, it's less, and it
Just say
depends on,
6:30 at night, that's standard high school Friday night lights.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't know. I would
We
have
have
to
to go
look.
back to our past billing,
Yeah, we would.
because we have records from high school games previously where it should be broken down,
Yeah,
all the
we
expenses
could look at it and
and
see.
the revenue that came in.
But I also wish that they would contact us instead of going through, you know, everyone else.
I'm pretty sure they'll contact you guys. Are we, see there, you found it? Scott, you wanted that?
I just had a question on the region statement. I'm showing the 13th of July, posted balance 105,302.48. And then at the top, it's got a current posted balance that's like $33,000 less than that. But I'm trying to reconcile that in my mind. Where's that $30,000 over the course of a week?
Just looking at the top.
He's looking at the top,
Yeah.
current posted balance is
Current posted balance.
72,314, and as of July 13th, and today is only the 19th, which is 6 days later, you're showing a difference of $33,000.
Pending items.
Yes, if you see the pending items, it's on the pending item.
Where is
You had 15,750 was ARP money, and then,
Where are your pending items?
well, you see where it says, okay, so on the left where you see projected date, well, PROC dot date.
Right,
So if you go through all those charges, that's what those are. So the ARP funding amount was 15.
there's,
So-
there's blank there for us.
Are you looking at? Yeah, it should be. This one right here.
Yeah, we don't have, ours.
Oh, you might not have, oh, I'm sorry, you might not have this one. Yeah,
I thought this was all.
You have this one?
Yeah, because this, if you do the numbers, this is this.
Oh, okay.
This posted balance, I think we're missing. Okay.
I got one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I've been going through this so much.
I think
We
they're gonna,
can't-
I think they're gonna work on those.
They're gonna work on this. What else?
Yeah, that's it, thank you.
But before I come over here, Scott, I'm sorry, Ben, if you would.
It seems that the use of stadiums, just looking at the events, how many of these events are gonna fill this whole thing?
One.
One. So with that in mind, it seems like it's maybe been a trend over the years that the demand for a stadium of this size isn't quite out there like it maybe once was. Do y'all have any plans to, say, scale back the operation here, as far as capital wise, reducing the size of the stadium, so that the operating costs aren't quite so high, yet we're still able to meet, fill it up at the levels we are, say 7,000 people. How many does it hold now, 30? 40,000, and we got one event that's gonna fill it up, so are we ever gonna get to a point where we're filling it up routinely? And if we're not, are there any plans, you guys have any ideas to put forward of how to scale it back so our operating costs could be less?
No, would you please?
Just a minute.
For example, if you came to the city and said, hey, look, it'll cost us $500,000 to tear down that part of the stadium and this part of the stadium, and now we got a stadium that we can operate, still serving the public purpose, and it's gonna cost X amount of dollars to do.
Mr. Draper, go ahead.
So with having more events to fill the stadium, it's possible once we have the necessary upgrades. So for example, I myself, like if Jackson State were to come today, I wouldn't feel comfortable about it because of the way some stuff is on the outside of the stadium. Once those things are fixed, you're able to bring in those big attractions. So I have a heavy network of a lot of people who can fill this stadium up. The country artist, for example, he wants to do a concert every other month. You know, so he has a lot of plans that he wants to do because South is not big enough. So scaling it back, in my opinion, wouldn't be the best thing to do because we can bring stuff in and tearing down one side or this side is not going to impact billing.
Yeah, so the reason I asked that is the city has hired Populous to evaluate the Civic Center and redo it possibly. South Alabama has a big venue. There's a private venue at the fairgrounds. We have the Sanger Theater. There are all these other venues here that we're just kind of robbing from one location and going to another. And I don't think that's sustainable over the years for having all the capital exposure of all these different locations, and then the events could all be handled at one location or one or two locations. And so that's really the crux of the question is, as a taxpayer, when they look at it and they say, well, we might have to do a $200 million bond issue to get the Civic Center up to speed so that they can attract these country artists,
Right.
whatever it is, and fill that place up. And we make that huge investment as a taxpayer to do it over there, and then we have another location that's pulling away from it, or vice versa. You know, we put a bunch of money here, and
Definitely
it pulls
understand.
away from there. You know, it just
Mhm.
attracting those big country artists. You know, it's great. It's fantastic. We want them to come to our city. But when we have competing venues, and this is a football location, you know, it's kind of hard. It's a hard sell to the taxpayer.
Yeah, I can see it from that standpoint, but these other facilities can't do what we do on the athletic side though. So when you bring in, like the CFL, for example, we're not stopping at football camps. We're trying to do something that's never been done, period. So scaling this back only hurts us in the long run on the path that we're on now. You know, so we can do football, we can do soccer, we can do anything athletics, lacrosse, added with the entertainment industry. They can't do that. In my eyes, there's no competition. There just wasn't enough movement and confidence in this position. So that's where I'm going to come in and change that, because now we have a network that we can build from, and there won't be like hey, we can go do this at South. You can't, because it's not big enough. If Jackson State were to come in and call South, they can't hold JSU.
Can't hold FAMU.
They can't hold. Hey, there's no competition. So if I tear down the end zones, what am I going to do? Now I can't hold them. Now Birmingham gets it. Now New Orleans gets it. So that's what we have to let the taxpayers know, is that, and to your point earlier, we have to be more transparent in letting them know what's going on and why we need to continue and why we need to increase, because this is coming in. So if we
The
would
other point is that yeah, they get it. Let's say Birmingham
Right.
gets it, or say we get it. But we also get the bill that comes along with it. You know, the long-term, all these other dates that they're not here. We also get that, you know, so that's the real concern is, yes, we get it filled up, right? And we sell all the seats and we maintain so that we can attract an event like that.
right.
We get that event, but we also get the other things that come along with it, which is all these dates that are not filled up, stadium's not filled up. We're gonna have I'm sure you guys are gonna come to us with a big capital ask at some point. And, you know, so that's part of the discussion. It has to be, it should be considered, in my opinion, amongst the board and you, to look at the possibility or the viability of scaling back in some sort of way. I think that is an honest way of approaching it, to say, okay, our likelihood, our chances, we're gonna try to fill this thing up on a regular basis. Okay, but I think it's also worthwhile to consider, in the event that we cannot scale it up, do we just continue to struggle along for years and decades going forward? Or do we look at some other option to scale back and have an operation here that is feasible in serving the taxpayer?
I got a question though. How does scaling back and cut costs on day-to-day expenses?
Well, you know, I think y'all would be better at describing that to me. But when I hear a $9,000 power bill, and you know, you got maintenance and upkeep of much more area, and I think the day's gonna come when you guys come to us for a big capital expenditure. And, you know, if you're painting 100 square foot versus 100,000 square foot, that cost is certainly gonna be higher in that regard. So I think it's worthwhile. I'm not saying, you know, that is absolutely, I know the way forward. I'm saying it's worth considering and looking into, maybe dialing back the operation in some sort of way. If we can't get there, of filling it up on a regular
Let me
basis.
interject a little bit here. Municipal complexes tend to lose money a lot. And let me give some examples, just so we remember where we are. The convention center is costing us in excess revenue a year, almost $500,000 more than what they bring in every year. They also have a loss of $2.5 million a year in income related to employees. We're also doing a debt reassessment and depreciation every year for the civic center down there. So it's a continual loss. When you put the two facilities side by side, when the civic center only has 10,000 seats in it, and we don't have anybody coming into it, where we have a facility that has 40,000 seats, but we do have some revenue generating opportunities out here per year that they don't have it all down there. But we're right now spending, how much was it? $200 and some odd thousand just for a presentation on what we can do with it and how much it's gonna cost us to fix it up, which is probably gonna be somewhere south of $200 million, plus the facilities around it. Then I say that over the years, LAD has done a great job in maintaining what it has with the limited budget, which is nowhere close to what the Civic Center has. And they're both municipal buildings, and they both provide a public service. Now, did you play in the stadium? Did you ever play football in high school? You're from Mobile, right?
No, I didn't play.
Okay. I played in the stadium, and I'm pretty sure a whole lot of others here played in the stadium. I can't remember in 30 years this stadium being full for more than maybe 10 games, if that. So over 30 years, I can never remember the stadium being full, whether it was high school. Wait, let me take that back. Murphy McGill game went crazy one year, 33,000 people. I think that was maybe 86, 87. Viger Murphy game sold it out. That was 89, whatever that was, somewhere up in there, 40,000 people. Senior Bowl has stopped. We had problems because Senior Bowl couldn't fill the facility up. And there are a national funded facility bringing athletes from all over the country. Started out with the Mobile Bowl, GMAC Bowl, whatever it changed into that and what it is now. They're still not filling the facility. They're not even filling this facility out in South Alabama. Now, we're talking about bringing in other schools here outside of Jackson State, Alabama, and you've heard me make this statement 100 times. Jackson State's been traveling, what, 51,000 people? If their whole entourage comes here, our stadium can't even hold them, plus Alabama A&M. FAMU's coming to town, I think, in 24, and they're already concerned because South Alabama, we travel with 21,000 people. South Alabama only holds 25, so we're gonna be limited to where we sit. Our city needs a facility like this. When they talk about concerts at the Civic Center is only gonna hold 10,000. A country concert out here could hold 40,000. They do concerts at football arenas all over the country. Our thing is whether or not the board can continue to make LAD Stadium a revenue generating opportunity for the public as a public service, as a municipal service to the city of Mobile. I mean, that's my aim on it. That's my take. So far, I'm liking what I see. I'm liking the energy. I'm liking the input. I would like to see some additional financial revenue stuff projected so that we actually know what we're looking at. Because we want you to be revenue generating. At some point, you're gonna have, like he said, a capital ask. You know, you need to actually start telling us what those capital asks are and where it needs some type of support. Because we don't know unless you tell us. And there also be truthful about your losses too. You know, because there are gonna be losses. You know, but you have to be truthful about your losses in order to get there. Ben, I'm not trying to push you, but I mean, a facility like this, if we lose it, then where do we go when the bigger games come? And they're coming, and the larger opportunities come. And I'm gonna let him go. If you want to say something.
Well, I think some of your statement goes to my point, right? Never fill this one up, or rarely fill this one up, rarely fill up Civic Center, rarely fill up all these locations. I'm saying as a whole picture, taxpayer must consider whether or not large facilities that we cannot fill up are worth the while. And I never made the comment about tearing Ladd Stadium down. I just said it's worth considering whether or not we follow the trend as it seems we have found ourselves in scaling back to a level that is maintainable over the years, where every, say, 10 years, we're not staring at a $10 million capital ask, or whatever it is, to redo it and bring it back up and redoing more than what we actually use or need. So that's it.
So,
Our obligation is to the residents and taxpayers of the city of Mobile. That's who our obligation is to. We have no obligation to FAMU or any other faraway organization. FAMU.
That's
right.
get that right now.
Or any other faraway organization, football team, to provide a venue for them to bring 30,000 of their families. Our obligation is to the residents of the city of Mobile.
I never said our obligation was to a university. I said our obligation was the opportunity to have a municipal facility for public use and public entertainment and enjoyment that can house those types of venues or those types of events.
Why does it have to house those types of venues? Well, you said when you made your comment that who's filling those seats are the people that come in and out, not our own residents. I mean, I'm sure we have our own residents watching it, but if we go from 10,000 residents to 40,000 and the other 30,000, we're only doing it 3 or 4 times a year. Again, our obligation is to our voters, our residents, our taxpayers.
Well, go ahead.
When you think about it, as a whole, our residents are receiving the impact. The money that comes from Gulf Coast channels, people coming in the hotel, spending money, staying here, that all benefit the city. When you think about from the standpoint of the schools that are here, that Jackson State, Alabama, you know how many alumni, they don't get an opportunity sometimes, so they are experiencing. And so we have to look at it from the standpoint that the impact that brings to the city, that maybe Ladd might not be receiving a direct financial but they're bringing money. You know, when we bring those games in, especially coming up with this Jackson State game, there's a lot of money to be spent in the city of Mobile. And so we have to look at it as that impact as well, not just as the impact directly financially to Ladd.
To Ben's point, we maintain a 40,000 seat stadium and we have a very small number.
Well, I believe we talk about growing the city of Mobile, right? So if we're gonna grow the city of Mobile, how we gonna downsize? If we're gonna grow the city of Mobile, we're gonna start downsizing. Hey, we wanna be the largest city in the state of Alabama. But let's start downsizing when we say we wanna grow.
All he was suggesting was that they need to look into it.
No, I'm just saying, when we looking at downsizing, but he did mention taking some parts out, that's downsizing.
All they suggested was it be looked at.
To everybody's,
But we're not even gonna look at it, we're not even considering
to
it.
everybody's defense, Mr. Reynolds did say that he did not say tear down Ladd Stadium or dismember any portion of it. He did say that. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
could we hear from, Mr. Danny, because, I mean, sports is his thing. And I would like to hear from him, his future, what he thinks of the future of this stadium and et cetera, in sports in the city of Mobile, and that would help a lot, I believe. Now, I hate to put you on the spot.
He's ready, he's probably waiting.
I'm just listening. Councilman Penn just said something I think is very important. Obviously, this meeting is about land, where income versus expenses, how much money we're spending here. But the other side of that is that if we have a 40,000 seat stadium, when we bring in Jackson State versus Alabama A&M in November, there could be 40,000 people here. The economic impact of that could be $8 to $10 million to the city of Mobile and the county for that matter. So that's the other half of this, or the other side of this, that you have to bring into to focus. That sure, maybe this stadium loses money just like the Civic Center, or the convention center on an annual basis. But the events and the people coming here from out of town that would not come here for any other reason but those conventions, whether it be football games or the events that CJ's talking about, we don't get that income, and that is real income. And what we try to do as a sports authority is try to break that down in economic impact and numbers. This Jackson State game could potentially be the largest event this stadium's had since 2009. And that was the Tim Tebow Senior Bowl, I believe. That was
Mississippi State game.
38,000 there. I'm talking 40 here.
Yeah.
So,
With another 50 outside.
and you're exactly right. This is only part of that whole equation about bringing big time sporting events here. So, kind of look at the whole picture. And again, Councilman Penn's right. Look at the whole picture. If you lose a little bit of money managing this facility, what are you getting in because of the events that we're talking about? Major League Football, the Gulf Coast Challenge, what CJ Drinkard is talking about bringing in. Some of that's subjective, let's face it, it's an estimate. But at the same time, we know there's a positive economic impact when you bring in an event that people would come into town for no other reason but that event. So, I don't know if I've answered any questions, but it's a bigger picture.
Extremely helpful.
So what you
Mr.
think the future is? I mean, that's why I wanna hear what you think the vision of this city, this stadium within the city, truthfully.
This stadium, to me, I'm a traditionalist. This stadium has been good to the city and the community. I'd like to see this stadium stay as is, if nothing else, and to be upgraded. The biggest thing that was done a few years ago, new locker rooms. And we've had one big game in those new locker rooms, that was last year's Gulf Coast Challenge. The HBCU games with Coach Prime raising the level of the HBCUs, that's where your growth potential is, are those kind of games. If we do 1, 2, or 3 a year, those are events that could bring a substantial economic impact to Mobile. But it takes some money to make some money. And the whole thing is, takes some money to obviously keep this facility up to the point that if Coach Prime walks in here and when he walks back out of here, says, oh, Mobile had it going on. They really had a nice facility. That's what we want. Because he goes out and says that's gonna have FAMU, Southern, Grambling, Alabama State, Alabama A&M wanting to come back down here and play. You probably remember we had the Gulf Coast Classic for 35 years.
35 years.
That ended in 2009. So it's like a rebirth of the HBCU is what I'm seeing because of what Coach Prime has done. And so from that point of view, I think we have to have a stadium this size if we're going to try to host those kind of events. And I don't know how much, let's say you take down the 2 end zones and go from 40 to 30. I don't think that really, it doesn't save you any money, really.
We don't know, that's what I'm saying, just consider it.
But I wouldn't think it would, but it's because it's mainly utility companies. But the future, I think we need a municipal stadium at whatever size that is. Because South with 25,000 seats, beautiful stadium, great stadium, we've all been out there, but it's 25,000 seats. So it limits what you can do. I don't know if that answered your question.
It is.
It does limit.
All right, in this order, Ms. Thrash, and then Randy.
I'm thinking different from a lot of people. I went with Gulf Coast Classic, but Dr. Yvonne Kennedy was over it. When we had the classic here, we would have 40,000 people. What we did was, we put out yard signs. You got to, and I use the word bustle, to get people to come into those stands, you got to know from them. You don't just say that we're gonna have a football game and expect all those people that's living right there to come. You got to let them know what we have. You believe out here now, they think this place is cold. I go to Waffle House and I go to Lunch Chicken and I sit in there and I tell them about Last Stadium because I love out here. And I tell them, once they know what's going on out here, you won't have any problem with them coming. Friday to walk through that gate, they need to have a ticket.
Yes, ma'am.
They need, and that will get all of those people, but you got to get out there and let people know what we are doing, and you can get $40,000. There's no big thing not to get $40,000.
Yes, ma'am.
You can get it right, you can get it in.
And this council looks forward to the stadium's marketing plan and how we're gonna do that.
And I'm willing to help him to do it.
Randy?
To Ben's, question about the stadium and about all the other facilities in town, when the mayor came in, after his election, the first time, he called us down there and said that his main goal was to get everybody that was on the city's budget off. Ladd's Stadium made the biggest decrease in funding requests year after year after year, cutting our costs, raising our revenues. None of the big games that were played at this stadium for years, Senior Bowl, the GMAC Bowl, when South started, paid a dime to play here. They paid expenses, but they didn't pay a dime. So when we started, and we took his word to heart, and when we started, as contracts came available, we started charging South, GoDaddy, Lending Tree now, and Senior Bowl. Then that's when South got up in arms and went and said, we'll build a little stadium out there for us to make our attendance look bigger. And then Senior Bowl went, they offered them not to pay anything. We did everything that we were asked to do, and it hurt us with the amount of games and things were down there. But we still have stayed viable with events, even losing the Senior Bowl and South, and now Lending Tree.
Anything else?
Yes, I got one more thing.
I'll throw it back to you, Terry.
Me now?
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, events like, we talked about the Buccaneers, for example, could be, he mentioned all great opportunities, but one of the keys I think is important is those men are not just young men from Mobile, they're from around the southeast, prospects, opportunities. They come into Mobile, they're gonna be housed, all right, I guess, what, twos, whatever. And then, of course, I think we deal with Bishop State, but they'll get their accreditation for academically. They'll help them get their Division I or whatever scholarship. I think last year, 85 or 100 plus kids, so it's a big time plus income important to us. But please know that the stadium is, we talk about these things, that we're part of the city of Mobile, as everybody's made the mention. And we understand that, and we know that the good part is that we need to work towards providing best for the city overall, not just for us ourselves. We understand that, and we know y'all support us. We also understand that it's just that we do need to look at all these things, and we'll continue to do that. We'll make sure that, look at our facilities, see what we need. I appreciate the fact that we need to operate at income plus if we can from the operational side, and then possibly come to y'all, we'll see those capital improvements. He's got a list of things that we need to look at for the host. We need to be in front of y'all and justify it. As Randy said, we've been doing it a long time. It shifted from the income, actually, we had a full schedule for all the events we had before. They've gone elsewhere, it's fine. Guess what? We bring great stuff back in here. That's what his commitment is, our commitment is to make that go forward. Just appreciate y'all, listening to us and being there to talk to students.
Yes, Mr. Jones?
I think what I'm hearing is we're seeing a shift in vision for Ladd Stadium. It used to be a high school football game with some HBCU games coming here. If I'm thinking from the perception that I am an outside entity that's looking to take my game to a venue that is being competed for, why Ladd? Instead of Birmingham that just built a brand new stadium, or across the south has got brand new facilities and whatnot, why Ladd? And I look at it here, and what I'm hearing through all of this is that in order to be competitive at the level to bring these entities in that you're talking about, there's a delta in the requirement requirement to get this up to a standard that you think we should be to do that? There's a huge question mark in my mind of what's that gonna cost? And we need to know what that, in order for you to achieve that vision, if that's a reality, that we need to do these upgrades, we need to know what that cost is. And then, you know, these are some great ideas, if, you know, right now I see a lot of risk with out years and not doing anything with LAD and trying to change that vision. If we keep status quo and this is a high school stadium and we're trying to make it something more than that without putting an investment in, we're not gonna win that ballgame. So we've got a decision to make. And I say we collectively because it's a city, I think, decision on where we need to go. Because what you're doing is you're taking this from a community level high school stadium to a city venue that is gonna require an upgrade to host the type of venues that you have a vision for. So I think that's a discussion that we need to have as well. And there needs to be some research done, there needs to be some analysis done of cost, and what does that look like? And is that, right now, I just got a big question mark, I got no clue. And is that feasible? I don't know. So I think that's something that we gotta look at as we move forward in a very short duration.
Just kind of a follow-up. You know, when the Senior Bowl came in and requested all the updates and things, I know we did a lot of things to try to keep the NFL happy at that point. We couldn't do everything, but we certainly did a lot.
Well, the locker rooms came after.
Yeah, well, that was always on the list to do, but anyway. So part of what Scott was getting at, I think, is in order to be as competitive as possible, you know, to not bring in just one game, one big game, a number of big games. You know, what is that gonna take? Not just on the maintenance, repairs side of things, but do we need to do more as far as packaging things around their weekend in Mobile through different events, different activities, things with restaurants, you know? How do we need to package these to attract the games, attract the alumni and the fans, and to work in conjunction, I guess, with Visit Mobile to get them on board to make these things happen? Do we need to package a football weekend around the cruise ship or something? You know, what does it take for us to be more competitive with Birmingham and some of these other cities that have been traditionally getting a lot of these games that we could host, you know?
Well, let me give you a little bit of feedback. All of you know that I wanted to see a second HBCU game played here. I think I sent most of you the memorandum of understanding from Alabama State to play Grambling here in '23.
Yeah.
But that takes additional money from the city. Cities, I think, guarantee there would be $450,000 to bring in Alabama State and Grambling in that year. But if the game is successful that year, then Alabama State will play Southern for the next 3 years here. So to say it, that's great. But when I talked to the president of Alabama State, what he saw was the driving force to get Alabama State back in the stadium was what was happening at Alabama A&M. The number of students from Mobile, because of the game, the Gulf Coast Challenge, tripled because they were playing here in Mobile. So the tuition and the number of students at their university is what drove them to continue playing here. Now it's the driving force behind Alabama State wanting to play here again in Mobile. And they want in here very badly, but we have to find a way to help them get here. With the MOU, we can't do anything until we have some financing in place. But that requires help with the council and administration for additional funding, which is not guaranteed in a year that we might, have some economic issues to deal with. But we have other universities that are saying the same thing. FAMU is now saying, before Courtney Ghosh left FAMU, he was saying the same thing. My God, look at what it's done to the population at Alabama State from Mobile, Alabama. So that's our driving force. Plus, we're a football town. Our athletes are great, but we have smart athletes that can also go to college. So that's a big driving force to do that.
Big recruiting area, recruiting opportunities.
Oh, great recruiting. Mobile is probably the most dynamic football city in the United States of America, other than baseball, I have to tell y'all that.
Councilman Carroll,
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
as an A&M grad,
Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Davis.
endorse everything you say.
Yes, sir.
I
Any
know
other
what's
questions? Ms. Davis, I'm gonna give you about 15 seconds.
I'll do fast. I was just gonna say, big difference in Birmingham and Mobile right now is the mayor, and they're all pouring a lot of money into those
That's right,
facilities. And they're behind them 100%, so,
That's right.
Well, they
That's
also
what
got
we
the USFL that's drawing 17,000 people a game there, so there's a big difference.
I also got $1 million person MSA.
I just,
You get ready to close, I want y'all to leave.
Whoa, slow down. I'm gonna get everybody all at once, but let's make this our last round where we're a little long. Mr. Andrews.
What you ended, I just, is it true that the new, airborne coach, is gonna be requesting us to leave tickets here for Elvis? I just wanted to verify.
He said he's not gonna do that anymore. He said he's not gonna do it.
Oh, okay.
Don't believe him.
Mr. Ash.
I want y'all to leave knowing that we're gonna bring this place back around. I guarantee that. And we're going to get 40,000 people and come to pick you up. And on your name, and we're gonna tell out every one time. But we're gonna get 40,000.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Am I right? Any other council members? Any action items we need to take out of this?
Well, I think just getting the plan of action, the balance sheet, all those sort of things, and to start, coming regularly, either in person or, I'm fine with just getting a report. We don't necessarily have to have them every time in person, but either way.
That's fine with me.
My intent of saying come down there without us telling you is not necessarily just to come and give us the update on the income statement and balance sheet, but to let the public as a whole know, hey, this is what we have going on. You know? Not necessarily for just my benefit.
I do think Scott's point that we made about putting numbers next to
Yes.
these items.
That's
Direct,
right.
indirect, and
Oh, I think that's,
expected.
yeah, that's a big sell.
Can we put a timeline on that? Would y'all like to have a timeline placed on that?
For getting the information on
The
this.
revenue next to your action items.
Well, I think they're gonna rework some of these balance statements, so,
Some of it is current within
Yeah.
weeks, so
Income statement.
can you push something maybe in a week or two at the longest?
You want, what's today? Tuesday?
Well, on the income statement, dude, that's just a push on the computer. That should come quickly. But on your direct income from some of these events,
Indirect.
direct and indirect, but,
And expected.
okay, and expected attendance. If you could get that to us, that would be great, but also correct your statement. Scott, I heard you, did I hear you say something? Is there any other thing?
and just keep us apprised about what's happening with the
Oh,
schools.
perfect.
So we know.
Definitely.
100%.
All right, we are adjourned. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, great job.